But now we're going to hear from some of those who have survived and thrived this process in the past. And it's my great pleasure to welcome Paras Lumba, CEO of Global Himalayan Experience. Welcome to you. Come down to the floor. We have Naomi McKenzie, who's the founder of Kaitro, which developed an AI waste system for food in the hospitality industry, and Fernanda Barents-Muntz, who is the CEO of Trip Boutique. So please, come down, join me, take a seat. Okay, thank you very much indeed for joining us. What do you think of the startups so far who've been where you have been in the past?
Yeah, it's really cool to see. I mean, a wine startup winning is always a great thing personally to see. I'm a big wine fan.
I'm always happy to talk about wine, of course. How about you?
I mean, amazing startups, and it brings great memories also of being on stage and pitching, and I'm sure that they're going to have a great path ahead as well.
Okay, well, we're going to talk a little bit about, but I understand you have a video to show us.
Oh, yes. I mean, we made this video 2 years back when Martin and his team were in India. So, yeah, it talks about our story, so yeah.
Okay, well, let's have a listen.
रोशनी के बगैर तो आदमी अंधा है। इन गांवों के लोग, बच्चों, बूढ़े, बच्चे, हर कोई, हमने देखा कि रात को अंधेरे में बैठ के और हाथ में दिया लेके खाना पका रहे थे, और बच्चे पढ़ाई कर रहे थे तो हाथ में दिया लेके उसका धुआं निकल रहा था। तो हमें सच में ऐसा लगा कि इन गाँव में बिजली लगाना कितना ज़रूरी है।
So, Paras, you're the CEO of Global Himalayan Experience. You obviously promote tourism to these remote areas, but you're also improving the area. Is that the point of this video?
Yeah, I mean, so we started 8 years back. The idea was to take travelers to a remote village in the Himalayas which doesn't have electricity. And the idea was to provide them with clean power. So we never heard of a concept where travelers would go and electrify a village. And that's how it started. And over the years, we have figured out that electricity is just one thing. You need to create a destination, a sustainable tourism destination, because that is what the travelers are looking for. As more and more over tourism is coming in, you need to find more destinations. So over the years, these villages which we electrified, we're setting up homestays in these villages, providing her more solar water heaters, and then health centers and education. So overall, for us, when we started this project of electrifying a village, it has gone 10-folds over years.
Okay, and let me just kind of dial things back a little bit and bring in Naomi and Fernanda, because you were all former winners here. Tell me about the journey after the World Tourism Forum Lucerne. How have you developed your business going forward, and what are the challenges that you've met since kind of winning your awards back here? Was it 2008, right?
No, it was 18.
18, sorry, yes, that's
exactly.
what I meant.
For us, it's been a very interesting experience. I think many startups that are in this industry, so in the tourism industry, were quite heavily impacted by COVID. So that's interesting for us to see how we could handle that. We're measuring food waste in commercial kitchens, so a lot of our restaurants were completely shut down. But we're excited to see that the industry is reopening, right?
But this is what's really interesting, because during the pandemic you had to really kind of pivot, but you actually explored new avenues, and you started investigating in hospitals and care homes. This was an otherwise undiscovered business for you, or sector for you.
Yeah, so when the lockdown happened, every one of our customers had to pause their subscriptions. And so we realized that there was one device still operating, and that was a retirement home. So we quickly started to work with them. But now the market is reopened and people are focused on sustainability. So I think now is really the right time to continue and make an impact.
Absolutely, thank you. Fernanda, tell me about the Trip Boutique.
So going back to WTFL, we also are winners in 2019. Since then, it has been quite a marathon with COVID crisis in between. Of course, right after winning was an amazing time when we raised our first financing round. So we were super excited, ready to grow, and then came COVID. So of course, we had to shift gears and adapt really quickly.
So what did you do specifically? How did you adapt?
Well, in our case, the market disappeared because what we do is personalized travel itineraries. We are an AI-powered travel advisory platform. So we were serving customers, like travelers, and basically we shifted. I wouldn't say we pivoted completely. We started partnering up with industry partners, with destinations that realized that after COVID, they had to digitize. They had to start using AI to basically, what we saw on the previous panel, to cater to customers in a smarter way. And this was a chance for us also to
Okay, so this was a real opportunity.
It was a big opportunity for us, yeah. Also to develop the technology. So there was a big investment there. We really pushed through the crisis on developing our technology.
You said there was a big investment.
Yes, I mean, we raised the financing round right before,
Okay,
so this is what we use our funds for, to invest in the technology, also invest in partnerships with industry partners.
Okay, and Paras, just give us an idea about the challenges you've had to face over the last 18 months or so.
Well, we actually grew in COVID. Of course, the travelers, they didn't come because it's been 2 years. I think the international travel just opened up yesterday into India. But what we saw was the communities were back in the villages. They were not moving around. So our electrification projects through CSR, through sustainability initiatives, we got some funding in and we started electrifying more villages, but without travelers. And like Naomi said, our focus was also on health centers because that needed upgradation in remote areas. So we powered up these health centers with solar power again. And then we had these homestays. We knew that travel is going to come back sooner or later. So we focused on, training those homestay owners, creating these different trek routes so that travelers could go in. And we actually listed these homestays on Booking.com and Airbnb. So someone like you and me can just book it in 2022 and can visit these areas.
And you didn't see any downturn in that then?
Well, it was tough, but when we all came together, right, and there was good time we were always in the mountains, right? Mm-hmm. It was difficult to sit back at home and trying to understand how a laptop works and things work. But that's a time when you evolve and you create more strategies, and things worked for us.
Okay, well, let's get some practical advice then for the startups that are here with us today. Naomi, how did you go about finding investors into Kitro?
So I think yesterday we heard that it's really hard to find money in Switzerland, and I think that really depends on the stage that you're at in your startup. We got very fortunate to find a lot of different investment instruments. So we have grant money from the Swiss government. We've been able to participate in programs like the World Tourism Forum Lucerne, which gave us also some funding. And then we found amazing business angels. So we even found one of our business angels here during the last when we pitched and won the competition. So someone who's been continuing along the journey of Kitro was actually thanks to World Tourism Forum Lucerne. So there's different opportunities. I think now we're going into a Series A and we're questioning maybe after hearing yesterday, maybe we should move to the US. But I think if you look around in Switzerland, there's a lot of funding opportunities, whether it's from corporates who are looking to bring in innovation into their own ecosystem or from the government. So I think there's a lot to do if you look around and try to get, let's call it free money.
Fernando, where did you look for investors?
Basically, we were looking for angel investors also in the beginning, and for us it was really important to get connected to the right networks that could connect us to angel investors. So in Switzerland, there are several angel investors clubs. There are also networks that are industry specific, like here, the World Tourism Forum. Also, it was through the network of WTFL that we found the first investors. Several kinds of groups where you can get connected to and go to the events, pitch. They're the so-called investor speed datings. I've been to many of those, and that's the normal path.
Isn't there a problem, though, with certain types of investment then that you might lose control of your strategy and what you want to do when you have angel investors?
Well, I don't see angel investors as such. I see them as really long-term partners, and I think it's really important for you to also use your gut feeling to identify those investors that really connect to the purpose of the company and to the vision that you have, and that's how you get long-term partners who go through crisis with you and continue believing in.
And you never had any kind of investors pull out during a crisis?
No.
Did anybody experience that? Paris? Naomi?
We didn't have any investors pull out. I would say at the beginning of Kitro, at the very beginning, we were offered what was a very significant amount of money to us at the time, and we were almost kind of stargazed by this amount of cash, and we were like, okay, even though we don't really like the investor and it doesn't sound great, we still need money, so maybe we should take it. And I think that would have been probably one of the biggest mistakes we could have done. I think as much as an investor chooses a startup, the startup should choose the investor, and you should make sure that you align on all the different areas of the business, whether it's how you want to move forward, the impact you want to make, what your focus is going to be, and it really needs to be, as you're saying, you really need to find mutual agreement with the investor and feel comfortable with them.
Okay, and it is possible.
Yeah, of course. I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, we never had investors. We never looked for it because we were always a bootstrap. The model was always like a flywheel, get some money in and then rotate it and keep generating more revenue. And wherever we want to set up infrastructure, we had the government supporters or stakeholders or even carbon offset projects. We had climate auditors, like My Climate, investing in projects which we could do on the ground. So for us, we are still at a stage where even when we want to expand in India or outside India, we feel we slowly go in. And because it's a work we do on the ground, you need to mobilize communities. It just can't happen like you parachute there and things happen in a second. It takes time. For us, it took us 8 years in Ladakh, and so that's the impact.
But I want to know why you chose the bootstrap way.
I think we wanted to go slow because there was no any model available in the world like taking travelers and electrifying villages. So we wanted to understand how this works. Probably in the next few years, we may look for investors because now we understand we need financing for expanding our business. Because till the time you don't understand what the correct model is for you, I don't think it's important to look for investors. You need to first believe in the kind of model you have, expand it, test it. So we have electrified 160 villages. I think that's a good enough number to understand how this works.
Okay, so let's get some more advice then for our startups watching, and indeed potentially for not our startups who are watching. What would you do differently if you could kind of redo, if you think back on your progress over the last few years, Naomi, what would you do differently?
It's interesting, I was thinking of this question before, and I think we heard it yesterday that we need more of a failure culture. And I think looking back on the, let's call them failures that we've made in Kitro, I wouldn't change any of them because we wouldn't be where we are today if we didn't make those small failures.
What kind of failures are we talking here?
So one of the biggest ones was definitely trusting our gut when it came to hiring. It happened twice actually, at the very beginning where we hired people because we thought we really needed that talent, and it turned out that there wasn't aligned with the impact we wanted to make with Kitro, how we wanted to build the company, and so we had a huge delay in the whole development at the very, very initial phase, and the whole thing almost collapsed because of one person. And so not trusting our gut when it came to sitting across from someone and saying, okay, this person on paper is great, but personality-wise and vision-wise is not a match, was definitely a mistake, or a learning. It's called a learning.
A learning, I like it. Fernanda, how about you? What would you do differently?
We had similar cases. Of course, I think it's pretty common on startups that you just need the talent right away, and then you don't do the full complete analysis, but that's part of the game. I would have actually looked for financing earlier on. We were bootstrapping for quite a long time because we believed that we had to prove something, like to prove our MVP, and then the next thing before actually going out to investors, and that's something that I would have done earlier. Yeah, I guess also potentially. Yeah, if I could, that was not the circumstance back then, but have a larger founding team with more diverse kind of skills. In the end, these were the early employees that we had to look for. So for example, on the technology side, so yeah, if you can have a larger founding team with diverse skills, I think that's something to go for.
And Paras, what about you?
That's a tough question, but frankly, nothing differently. But yes, one thing. So we started in 2013. We won the camp in 2017. So thanks to Dr. Martin, he founded us, he says that way. And we figured out that we are also a tourism company. So probably when we start, probably would have started energy and tourism together. Because initially we thought we were an energy company, and then we figured out, oh, we are a tourism company now. So that is, the livelihood angle is very important for any infrastructure sustainability. And probably have an office, because when we started, we always were remote in the mountains. And then we figured out after 6 years, we need to be together. So yeah.
And I know that you say that obviously you've bootstrapped until now, and potentially in the future you'll look for investors. And what is it you want from investors, though?
So there are two things of it. One is that think of it, we have more than 400 villages with us right now across the globe, including Africa and South America and Asia, which do not have access to electricity. And they're potential expedition villages. So now do you have to to electrify those villages, we have to get travelers in. Because the model works is, if you join our expedition, your cost of the expedition also pays for the solar grid that goes into the village. So if you have more people coming in, the more villages get electrified, the lesser communities migrate to the city. So we need investors to market our expedition so that we have more traction coming in, the funnel coming in. And secondly, we would need investors who are also looking at energy investment. They are looking to create supply chain in these remote areas. There's something called last mile business. So it's not just about taking travelers there, electrifying a village, and you come back. You actually create a whole business there, which can lead to something like appliances, services in these remote areas which are never existent there.
All right, well, let's find out a little bit about what's next for all of you. Fernanda.
We are definitely growing in destinations. So back in 2019, during the World Tourism Forum, we were in 2 destinations. Now we're closing the year at 20 destinations, and we're on a steady growth path also towards the next years.
Where are your locations? Are they European-based?
Mainly European-based, but next year we're growing outside of Europe as well. Also growing in partnerships, as I said, companies that want to offer this personalized kind of experience to their guests and to their visitors. This is the target for us next year, and glad to see that they're also coming to us to partner up. So.
Okay, that's always good.
Yes.
Always good to hear. And for Kitro, I mean, during the pandemic, obviously you developed the new sector with hospitals and care homes. What's next for you?
Yeah, it's interesting to be on a panel that says we made it, because for us...
I wanted to ask you what you thought, if you feel that you've made it as well, but I'll ask that in a second, but please carry on.
Okay, so I'm going to leave that part for later. For us, what's next? So during the pandemic, we took this time, we focused on the new segment. We also worked on our customer journey and the product. We're now active with 86 devices in Switzerland, Germany, Australia, and in Belgium. So we're really going to start focusing on Germany and France and expanding into those markets also through partnerships. So hopefully next year is really the growth year for us.
Okay, and it sounds similar for
Yeah.
growth.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking for new areas. So before the pandemic hit us, for everyone, of course, we were expanding and trying to work out areas in Central Asia, in the Madagascar, very tourist areas without electricity villages. So that's the focus now coming in 2022. And of course, as we electrify more villages, we set up more cook stoves, and we feel there's also an opportunity for carbon offsetting. So things will go together.
Okay, great stuff. And yes, we made it. This is the name of this panel. But Peter Fankhauser made it 5 times. Did that kind of rock your boat a little bit?
For sure, I think last night people were like, oh, so you're one of the ones who made it? And I was like, I don't know what that means. I think we made it back onto the stage, which is always a big honor. But in terms of the impact we want to create with Kaitro and how much food waste we see that we can mitigate, we haven't even made a small fraction of what we plan to do. So we've made it back, but we haven't made it where we want to get yet.
Okay, so we're still going to make it, yeah? Do you agree?
Yes,
I guess you all agree.
We made it so far, but there's a long marathon. We've made some sprints, and the marathon just continues.
I think we just started. I mean, because it takes time to understand, follow the passion. You stick to a focus, and then you feel, okay, things are falling in place, let's start. So I think it's just the beginning.
All right, well, we have a few more minutes. So are there any questions from our startups in the room, and indeed from anyone in the room, for our veterans here? If I could be so bold as to use that term. Please get your hand up and ask a question. Do we have any volunteers?
There's one.
Oh, there is one right behind me. Please, go ahead. We'll get you a microphone. 1 second.
Thank you all. For you, Renata, you were saying that you are looking for partnership in experience. Are you also looking for a different client to offer experience to a more open or bigger market? And the question that I'm making is, in my head, for what I do is remote workers. They are going to go out more and explore more and find different also kind of experience. So, yeah.
I couldn't hear which one you say? Workers? No, I didn't hear.
Remote workers.
Remote workers.
Remote workers. Okay.
So the question is that what kind of other experience you think that you need to develop to approach communities like those? Mm-hmm. Or what is the vision or the mission of that?
I mean, of course, we thought about that a lot during the COVID crisis. I mean, remote workers means also people who are traveling and spending a long time somewhere and just relocating temporarily, right? Spending 2-3 months in a new location. And of course, we can also cater to them, helping them feel at home in any destination and have a personalized experience, like a life experience there. So definitely they are also part of the target group.
Thank you very much. And in fact, I'll come to you in just a second because we have a question coming to us online. We're going to be joined by Jianguo Chu, who is Chief Representative for Greater China Region for the World Tourism Forum Lucerne, based in Shanghai, joining us remotely. Jianguo, welcome to the program. What's your question?
Yeah, hello.
Hi.
Good evening, good morning.
Do you have a question for us?
I have a question. Is actually how you make this, if you link it with the industry, and you have different background, and then you have the technology, and you now have tourism industry, and how to combine this, how to make it. So, because people are in change now because of the pandemic, a lot of changes, they change their jobs, they change their orientations, and how to combine, how to include all these people, and to make the best practice, best experience, best use of the experiences. And that was my question.
Thank you very much indeed. Who'd like to jump in on this? Because I think this is a very interesting idea. You know, we've all had different experiences during the pandemic, and it's changed some people's viewpoints on where they want to work, how they want to work. It's also made some people, we've heard earlier today, want to leave the industry as a whole. How do you navigate that? I mean, you said yourself, Naomi, that it's hard to find people that you really can commit to the project.
Yeah, I think now it's getting easier because post-pandemic, okay, not post, I know we're not supposed to use that word. Now in the stage that we're at in this whole situation, people have taken the time during lockdown, whether they were in lockdown or not, to reflect on what is really important for them. And I think a lot of people are seeing that if they're going to do a job, they want to do something that really has an impact and something that they can stand behind and be proud of. And so I think that's where a lot of startups now have the advantage to really showcase what they're doing and why they're doing it and what impact that can make on the planet. And I think if you have a startup like that, for us now it's getting easier to attract talent because people have reprioritized what kind of company they want to work for.
Okay, well, that's an interest. That's a surprise. I'm surprised by that it's actually become easier. Would you agree with that, Fernanda?
Yeah, no, I do agree. I mean, we actually expanded our workforce to Paris, Lisbon, Ukraine, Zurich, just because, you know, people everywhere are connected to what we're doing, and we don't necessarily have to hire here in Switzerland. So I think this brought quite some opportunities, hiring opportunities to find the right team wherever they are.
And Paris, you were doing this originally anyway, weren't you? Working from wherever.
Yeah, expeditions for next year, people are already asking, are you running expeditions this year? I said, hold on. It's still just, need to get vaccinated, the whole world. So next year, the expeditions, we're getting a lot of inquiries. On the other side, even the homestays, which we have set up in these remote areas, they're getting full. I mean, people want to stay there for a month, 1.5, and work from there. So there is this tendency to go out there, try and use the scale for some other things. Volunteerism is increasing in our portfolio as well. So yeah, we expect a good 2022.
Thank you very much. I hope that answered your question. Jagoshua, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
A final question in the audience. Thank you.
Yeah, this is for Paras. Is it on? Sorry. This is for Paras. First of all, I wanted to say very inspiring work that you're doing with GHE. But I was going to ask, what are some of the main pain points that you've run into to get rural communities to buy into tourism as a development model?
Excellent.
It's a long answer. I'll try and keep it short. First of all, these villages are not even on Google Maps. So find these villages, trek for days and days, cross mountain passes, and then you take a light bulb with you and try and show them this is what we plan to give you, right? And but the interesting part is in the mountains, the communities are very hardworking. They value what you give them, and they're open to receiving something which they want to keep it for longer years. And interestingly, we figured out that they also want to stay back and preserve their culture. So for us, when you talk about intervention of a simple technology, I'm not getting Facebook there. It's just about basic human right of electricity. And then asking them, you are a decision maker, you decide what you want to do with this. And they've seen they've created more jobs out of that, and they've not migrated, and that's what we would want as well, So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much. That was really interesting. Okay, well, I think we're going to wrap it here. Thank you all very much indeed for joining me. Paras, Naomi, Fernanda, please go back to your seats because now we're going to announce the fourth winner of the pitching process. Thank you.